What's up, guys? This is Marco Stein, and you're listening to All Elite Podcast.
I'm Mark Quinn. This is Isaiah Cassidy, and we are Private Party.
And you're watching the All Elite Podcast.
This is Luchasaurus, and that's Jungle Boy. And you need to check out All Elite Podcast.
We are the Lucha Brothers, and you listen All Elite Podcast.
You know why?
Hey, this is Cole Cabana. Check out the All Elite Podcast. All Elite.
This is Sammy Guevara, the best ever. And you, yes you, need to go check out All Elite Podcast.
What's up, man? It's the After Machine, this Wolverine, Mr. GMSI himself, and man with the huge F and arms, Brian Cage. You're watching the All Elite Podcast. See you later.
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting edition of the All Elite Podcast. As always, I'm your host, All Elite Andy, joined by my two awesome co-hosts, Big Match AJ and Philip Domino. We're short one once again, but that's all right. Kira is not with us entirely for the show. We always miss Kira's presence, but that's all right. We'll get Kira on after the pay-per-view, I'm sure, to get her thoughts on that, and Phil will have some thoughts from Kira, I'm sure. But otherwise, how are you guys doing? AJ, Phil, how's everyone today on Thursday? We're doing things good. A little different today.
Yeah, Thursday show. It's going to be the usual, right? Our
Yes,
Thursday podcast. And good. I went to school in person. COVID times are dying down, apparently, at least
Only
here.
in Florida, you mark.
I know, right?
No, but that's good, dude. I'm glad you got to go to school and you continue to be on a positive path. We all do, I think, in our own ways, but it's good to see you continuing on your own. Fuck you, Phil. There's positivity in your life. You just refuse to embrace it, brother. We're here for the podcast. That's always positive. We've got some fun stuff to talk about, so that's exciting. Phil, what did you think of Dynamite last night before we talk about the news?
I was excited that Excalibur was back. I felt like a much needed presence on the show.
I thought it was nice, but I don't know about, like, much needed is an interesting way to put it, because I did miss him, but it's not like they were bad off without him. I think Taz did a good job, but
I felt like the first week without him was bad because Jim Ross.
But we didn't even notice.
He got a little loose there.
Fair.
JR got a little loose.
That's true.
But aside from that week where it was really egregious, yeah, you could argue that we didn't really miss him.
Yeah, and but it's still good to have him back. That is the one thing I will say.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely missed him. And I did like Taz because you got a heel voice on commentary, but I really like Excalibur.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest thing I enjoyed, was just the heel voice on commentary. But yeah, having Excalibur back is always a good thing. It was an interesting episode of Dynamite going unopposed this week. The Go Home show leading into the pay-per-view, and they did a nice rating, 928,000, nearly cracking 1 million for the first time in a long time since the beginning of AEW, and something we expected for sure. If you watched me and AJ play Fall Guys last night, we talked about it a little bit. It's definitely a situation where when they're running unopposed, NXT as well, they're putting on better numbers. I wouldn't say it's a better product, but it's a better numbers for sure. More people have the opportunity to tune in. It would be more present in nights when there are bigger matches. When it's like, there have been plenty of NXT matchups I've missed out on because they're going head to head with AEW that I would have probably tuned into if they were on a different night. So because of that, I think it's good. This is obviously a great sign of that too, but this is also a sign that WWE might try and stay on Wednesdays. Seeing AEW do such a positive number probably has them a little taken aback.
It's possible. I mean, if they see that, like, oh man, they really can break 1 million when we're not on the air, then they might back off from doing that. But at the same time, it's just as possible that NXT can break 1 million whenever if they're on a Tuesday or a Thursday or whatever they want to go to.
Yeah, no doubt. So it's just it's good to see a good rating, especially leading into a pay-per-view. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in my opinion, it wasn't the best go-home show. The best go-home show was last week's show. But
the go-home to the go-home.
Yeah, the go-home to the go-home was the better go-home. But this go-home, it was fine. I didn't hate it. I think Tony Khan even explicitly said there was a lack of wrestling on it because he thinks the wrestling on All Out is going to be that good. But I don't know. I wish we got a little more wrestling.
Yeah. Phil, what did you think about that? Just that brief note.
I thought the fact that they popped such a good rating was was a good sign because there wasn't that much to look forward to as advertised. I mean, what, according to a week ago, were you really looking forward to?
Yeah, no, I agree with. I mean, I agree with you. They had a good tag team match. Is that what you're talking about? Like on the actual episode of Dynamite, what were we looking forward to? I thought the opening match was something I was looking forward to. The debut of Thunder Rosa was something else I was looking forward to. But you're right, it's not like it was a huge show where there was a major reason to tune in outside of the fact that it was the go home show. I
mean, usually on a Dynamite televised on a televised card, we have at least one title match. We didn't have any tonight.
Yeah,
for good reason, because we're building up to the big ones, but in a week by week kind of program.
Yeah, and I do agree. There just wasn't a whole lot for this show. I mean, we closed with the main event match being Moxley against MJF's attorney. So that was.
So you can't even know. You don't even know his name.
Mark Sterling.
Yeah, Mark
Good
Sterling.
for you. Good for you that you know his name.
But that's another fair point.
I said last week that he was an entertaining character, but
and
do I want to see him wrestle?
In the main event, no.
That's fair.
In any capacity, no. But in the
not
main
on a
event
go
especially,
home, so definitely.
No.
We'll get into all of Dynamite here in a minute. Just some more news bits we should talk about, though. Tony Khan did that whole interview just talking about the pay-per-view that's coming up. I thought that was really interesting. AJ mentioned it just a minute ago in talking about the fact that they intentionally went for less wrestling on Wednesday's show to try and be more, to push you to watch the pay-per-view, I guess, because on the pay-per-view they intend on having the best wrestling product since the coronavirus pandemic has started, which you would expect it. You know, they're going to have, they even mentioned in that, or Tony Khan mentioned in that interview, he's going to push the capacity that they're willing to bring in from 10 to 15%, something AJ and I had sort of speculated on when they started bringing in fans, where maybe save a little bit of space for when you have a pay-per-view. So he sort of mentioned that they plan to do that, which makes sense, and that's smart. And also in this interview, they asked about Brock Lesnar, and Tony Khan wasn't willing to conversate about that. That's the funny thing. Phil, you make a face. Tony wasn't really, he said no comment, essentially, was his comment to being asked about bringing in Brock Lesnar or the potential of it. I don't know what to expect, but you never know what to expect in wrestling, so.
It would be so much money to get Brock Lesnar.
Might be
and
worth
is it really worth
No,
it with how many dates he's going to do, though?
Because you might only need him for one to get people to tune in, you know?
That's fair.
Brock very well could be their Mike Tyson in this generation of things, and being able to pull in super casual fans and UFC fans and not just wrestling fans. So I do understand the idea behind it, and there's even like a built-in feud between him and Mox. Like it's not a match I definitely want to see because the match they had already sucked, but you could tell a story with that in AEW and potentially have a better match. But at the end of the day, you have to pay Brock to come in, and probably pay him quite a bit to come in and lose. So it doesn't seem likely, but just the way Tony had mentioned it, because if this was something that wasn't going to happen, he would have quickly said, we're not interested. He said, I can't speak on this. I can't really talk about this subject. And he also mentioned that there would be surprises in this coming week at the pay-per-view. He mentioned a lot of excitement for the Dynamite show this Wednesday. So I don't know what they have up their sleeve. And I'm not alluding or saying that it's going to be Brock, or even that he was hinting it was going to be Brock, but he's saying something surprising is going to happen, and then the way he's speaking on that, it just leaves you to wonder, You can't help but speculate.
It would, like you said, though, it would, with Brock, it feels like we're talking about CM Punk again, like, oh man.
But he's actually a
gonna
draw.
happen.
Like, Brock is actually a legitimate draw who would be worth that amount of money. Brock compared to Punk in terms of actual business, like that's a whole different conversation.
You're right. I agree with you, but it's a lot of money for him to come in and lose if it's going to be a one-off deal. If it's going to be a multi-deal, then it's going to be a lot more.
Tony Khan is short on money. They're not short on money, and they know the business aspect of it. That's why I'm saying this is like a Mike Tyson situation where you pay millions of dollars to get on ESPN, to continue building that notoriety that you've built throughout this whole summer, and now take it a whole nother level. with someone who people are willing to tune in for. Like, Brock is someone that draws numbers on television.
Yeah, I'm not shutting the idea down. I'm just not going to be optimistic and be like, oh, yeah, Brock's coming.
I'm not saying he's coming. I'm saying that they're trying to bring him in based upon the way Tony Khan is speaking, and that's undeniable.
Oh, I'm shutting the idea down for sure. Brock has 3 options realistically at this stage in his career. He's either going to stay in WWE and be pushed to the moon. He's going to fight in the UFC, and he's
so
going
you think
to fight
there's a bigger
for
chance that he's going to fight in the UFC than that he goes to AEW?
Oh, for sure.
That is hilarious.
He's gonna get a one-off with John Bones
So
Jones.
he would rather be paid millions of dollars to train for and do a legitimate fight at his age than to be paid millions of dollars to wrestle for AEW. That is the dumbest thing you have ever said on this podcast. Honestly,
why?
It is so fucking stupid.
Because a man named Bob Sapp collected thousands upon thousands of dollars.
You're comparing Bob Sapp to Brock Lesnar right now? This is fucking stupid.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because if John Jones and Brock Lesnar fought in a real fight, obviously, to a logical fan, Brock Lesnar is going to lose. And he's going to lose quickly. But he's going to make a lot of money in the 2 minutes and 30 seconds he steps in the octagon.
So you think that it's just like the only work he has to do to go in the UFC is to step in the octagon and fight? Like, there's no pre-training. There's so much more work that goes into fighting and doing a real life fight than to go into AEW and make millions of dollars to do one match or two matches.
I don't know that I agree with you, because Brock Lesnar could retire
Brock
and
already,
give his children
Brock already
college
said he's
funds.
not gonna do UFC shit. Like, they've already made that's already a news story going around. So that's why it's also like it's insane to me to think he's going. The timetable for him to go back to the UFC was his last contract. This is not happening.
The conversation though is Brock Lesnar going to go to the UFC? The conversation is he going to go to AEW and put over somebody, or is he going to go to the UFC and fight a legitimate fight, or is he going to go to the WWE where he's been pushed like a monster forever, have a one-off match with Roman Reigns, and whatever? Obviously, the AEW choice is third on the list, no matter how you want to spin it.
But that's the most financially, like, and again, I'm lucrative? Not most lucrative way. He's going to make the most money going to AEW.
Don't think so.
Because they would have to. Like, it wouldn't be because if AEW wanted to get him, he's not just going to not let Vince know what his contract is, and then it immediately becomes a dispute. Like, it's not wherever he ends up. If there becomes a dispute, he's going to make a shit ton of money. So I don't know. My only point in bringing it up is saying if Tony Khan wasn't wanting to bring in Brock, when he was asked about it, he would have said, "Oh, we're not planning to bring in Brock. That's too much money. There's no need to bring him in." If you guys listen to what Tony Khan said, he's sitting here saying, "I'm not speaking on this. I cannot speak on this. Thank you for asking about Brock. He's a very great talent. I cannot speak on this." When someone is not under any contract, there's no reason you couldn't speak on it.
And this is why I agree with AJ. He took the words right out of my mouth when we speculated for CM Punk for 8 million years. Is CM Punk going to come to AEW, WWE's biggest competitor? Is he going to show up in Chicago? Blah, 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 blah. All right? No, he's playing to it to hype up the possibility.
That's what I would think, yeah.
He's not under contract, or he can't comment on Brock Lesnar.
I know he's not under contract.
Lesnar probably hasn't even talked to that guy. Be realistic. Come on.
Be real. Yes, you're right. Brock Lesnar probably doesn't handle his own contract negotiations, Phil.
That is
so
true.
He probably hasn't talked to Tony Khan. You're right. Let's be realistic. But all right. You guys are right. You guys are so right. There's absolutely no way Brock Lesnar has had any contact with AEW, and Tony Khan is just playing up the internet media because that's what he does all the time. He did it so much with CM Punk. The one time he mentioned it in a press conference and said that he had like one conversation with Punk. So you guys are right. So you're totally right. That makes 100% sense. It was also interesting hearing him talk about just the relationship between AEW and NWA. He also spoke on that during this press conference. Well, you guys might say there's no relationship between AEW and NWA, but who knows?
I think they're really getting to a point where even when NWA is back on TV, they're still going to be working together, because it seems at this point that they've
When
built
did
up
NWA
such a
ever have
relationship
TV?
with each other. Yeah, not TV. You know what I mean. Their show, their weekly show. When they have their weekly show back, I still feel like they have this good relationship. Like, even if it's a handshake deal, I don't think that Tony Khan and Billy Corgan are on bad terms of any kind. And we talked a lot over this course of the whole podcast of like AEW partnering with somebody, whether it be Impact or New Japan or Dragon Gate or whoever. And it seems like NWA is the most viable and reasonable one based on their talent.
Strongly agree, and it seems to reflect that way on the talent that they bring on television.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with Ricky Starks, I don't even know if he was under contract at the time.
He wasn't.
He was the NWA. He was an NWA star.
He was.
I think
he was the TV champion at one point.
Yeah, same thing with Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I don't
it's
know
an
how the
interesting
women's-
relationship. I don't know. It's interesting to hear how Tony Khan puts it into perspective, saying that it's more or less the relationship between him and Billy Corgan. It's not necessarily a working relationship between companies. And he did go out of his way to point out that Thunder Rosa is the only one that they've necessarily. She's the only one they've necessarily brought in that was under contract to NWA at the time, but. The rest of them have all been out of their contract. But that's not to say, and again, he's made it sound like it's a one-off, but also continued to hint at the fact that if she wins the title, then obviously that relationship will continue. And that might have been a reason why he sort of played off that there isn't much of a relationship yet. So who knows?
Yeah, for sure.
Overall, I think that's most of the news from AEW. It was a long interview he did, or a long presser. So there's a lot of stuff you could take out of it. He went out of his way to say that the last pay-per-view was way better than WrestleMania, which was interesting.
Yeah.
It was fun, like, obviously, but he went out of his way to make that point, so that was fun. So, you guys have any notes that we briefly went over? Anything you wanted to go over a little bit before we talk about Dynamite?
About the presser in general, I mean, I guess not really. I was going to mention what you said about how he thought they kicked WrestleMania's ass, which they probably did. I didn't watch WrestleMania to that point.
He did
I
say
don't
that
know.
Britt versus Swole is going to be a cinematic match,
yep.
so we'll see.
That's right.
That because you mentioned WrestleMania, and those were the things that stood out about WrestleMania. I'm curious to see how they do this. I don't see how it could be very great, but who knows?
Yeah, it's going to be something. I don't know, man. I'm kind of tired of the whole feud. I mentioned that earlier to you. And I liked it at first, too. But it felt like at a certain point, it was just Big Swole picking on a cribble. And it kind of got me out of it.
Don't you like the fact that it's going to all pay off in a pre-show match?
I know. Well, you know what? I don't mind it because I really don't care about it.
Well, he had mentioned the fact, too, that the pre-show really shouldn't be viewed that way. That was something that they had brought up in the presser. The fact that they try to put main stars on the pre-show for every pay-per-view, and it is something that they have done, and they do treat the pre-show a little bit more important. But yeah, for something that was this long, this drawn out, to not have it on the main show, I understand making that decision, especially because it has to be this cinematic type match because Britt's obviously still injured, but it's been so long and drawn out that to not be on the pay-per-view, it kind of sucks. That's what happens when you plan something out so early and think that it's going to work out despite her injury. So that getting her into a feud with the injury was the biggest mistake. They could have had her on TV, had her be a mouthpiece, had her say whatever she wanted to say, but getting her involved with Swole was probably the biggest mistake. So. Because they can't deliver an actual match, and so now they put it on the pre-show because of that. And who knows? Maybe it will be entertaining. You would hope so, especially it's cinematic. Yeah. It's free to watch.
I definitely hope it's going to be good. I'm not like saying it'll be shit, but it
could be, man.
I hope it makes me care.
You're right though that I don't care. It's like some toothless aggression match or something in memory of Chris Benoit. I don't understand. But yeah, that should cover all the news points. Like I said, it was a long presser, so shout out to Tony Khan
it was
for
like an
doing that.
hour.
That's really cool. There were a couple of people I noticed from Twitter actually that were a part of that, so that's cool that they're really bringing in the community that does help promote it throughout social media. And they weren't just Twitter people; they were people who do WrestleJoy website and stuff like that. So shout out to them, and just shout out to Tony Khan for that was an interesting thing. It's cool to get those insightful pressers. So that was cool. We're going to quickly run through Dynamite. That way we could talk about Dark at the end of the show. So probably not going to give it as much of a deep dive, but we opened the show up with Tony Khan, Jim Ross, and Excalibur back on commentary. We already mentioned that. That was exciting. Good to see him back. We then jump right into a match with the Best Friends versus Proud and Powerful. They got jumped during their entrance. This was actually a really good match with Best Friends showing a lot of aggression here. Proud and Powerful picking up a real significant victory over Best Friends. Both teams looking strong. Proud and Powerful doesn't have the best record, but they continue to beat some of the best teams, which is the important part in the whole situation. So briefly, what do you guys think of this match?
Exactly what you said. Proud and Powerful needed a significant victory, and they got it. My only nitpick on it is that it wasn't on the pay-per-view. I really feel
Would have been a
that could have been a
fantastic
pay-per-view
pre-show match if you want to have a great match on the pre-show.
Yeah, it confused me that this wasn't on the pay-per-view.
To that point, Phil, I will say that you said this show didn't have much to the card. This match was the it thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's not like if it had been on the pay-per-view, I would have listed it in like my top 3 things that I wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
But the payoff felt like it deserved a pay-per-view quality match, and what I got was a really good Dynamite match.
Very true.
Take that as you will.
Very true. But at the same time, it's not a super diehard feud. It does have some real aggressive tone to it, but it's not super diehard, so I'm okay with how it's gone. And again, I don't really think this is the end. They could keep this one going for a little bit, which is interesting and fun in the world of wrestling where two teams are feuding not over championships. They just have problems, and that's kind of cool, and it makes sense in storyline circumstances. So I like that. Yeah. From there, we get MJF. He's backstage. He's told by Lee Moriarty, or Lee something, that Mark locked himself in the room. Wardlow has to kick in the door to bring out Mark, the lawyer. MJF tells him he's got 2 choices. You can either get in the ring or get in a goddamn wood chipper. So a very simple segment just to build up to the main event and showcase, again, the fact that the authority figure or the attorney for MJF is obviously not trying to be in this match, but he's got to do what he's got to do.
Well, he's being made to do what he's got to do, but yeah.
And it shows, it makes Mox look even that much more shitty, you know? That's the idea of it. That's the point, you know?
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that, Phil, or could we continue? I figure you don't have much.
I didn't really have any thoughts on this. I knew that the lawyer would be a coward. I knew MJF would kind of heal it up. I did appreciate the fact that he was like, oh, you know, people who step in my way, I don't have any problem doing whatever it takes to get to where I wanted to be as like a kid, which was nice because we got kind of a motivation from MJF other than being like a douchebag.
Yeah.
You know, just trying to further himself. We kind of got a little expansion.
A little bit of character development.
Yes. Yeah. A tiny bit of expansion of like what his motivations are.
Yeah. So again,
but in the end, it kind of was the same as it ever was.
Which is fair enough. And Max is always good that it's not that big of an... It's just hard to rant and rave about something that's just like continually average for him because that's what... He's so good that good is average. From there, we get a long 8-man tag match. We have the Young Bucks and Jurassic Express defeating Private Party and SCU. This match went 14 minutes. After the match, the Young Bucks refused to get their hands raised with Jurassic Express. During this match, at one point, Matt Jackson pours a beer on a fake planted Hangman Page fan, which was very... it's weird to see the Bucks playing this heel role. I understand you lost. I understand you're upset at the man Hangman Page, but to act this way to a fan, to act this way to the Jurassic Express, it's very weird. It's very weird. What do you guys think?
I think putting the Young Bucks in that heel direction is probably the best way to go with them, but it's also going to be weird because it's clear that they're going to be in a program with FTR, who are also going in a heel direction. And so I really don't know. Maybe they're just going, hey, there's no heels, there's no baby faces, there's just dudes who want to fight each other. I
We're
don't know.
just a company full of douchebags.
Yeah, apparently.
I hate that. I hate that direction. I really do.
Like, I'm just saying, it's not what I would do, but it seems like
It
it's
really
what they
took
might
away
be
from
doing.
the match, which I understand they were trying to tell the story, and that's kind of the point. But it did take away from a long match that should have been much better.
Yeah. Also, I don't think that we needed to see We knew the Young Bucks were going to win. We knew Jurassic Express was going to win. This did not need to be 14 minutes.
Were you saying something, Phil?
I was just saying that the whole everybody's a douchebag kind of thing kind of really throws me off a little bit. I don't like the everybody's a tweener kind of mindset. It sounds good in theory, but on TV it comes across like some people come across really unlikable, like the Young Bucks. Who could root for them?
Yeah.
They seem like a bunch of assholes.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So I'm interested to see this pay-per-view match to an extent, just because I want to see Jurassic Express look good. But we'll talk about that here in a minute when we talk about the pay-per-view.
Like to see that. Yeah. You're right.
After this, we get a short segment. Jake Hager's in the back. He sits next to Orange Cassidy. He says that Jericho wants him at ringside for the match tonight. Hager says that it would be smart for him to be there. So just a way to put in the idea that Orange Cassidy was going to be out there for something. I didn't really understand this. AJ took it as the fact that Chris Jericho was going to lose to Joey Janela.
No, Jericho's promo. Jericho's promo made me do that.
I
Jericho
harder at that. I wish I had been there live.
I was so sad.
That's fair. Again, this was just a short segment, so really nothing to get into, just encouraging Orange Cassidy to come out later. From here, we get Tully Blanchard. He's there with FTR. He talks about how they accomplished their first goal by winning the gauntlet on Saturday. They have the opportunity to take the gold. They're the men to do it. This just leads to them cutting a bit of a promo. Kenny Omega makes his way out. They try to give him they try to share a beer and some chocolate milk with Kenny. They can't do that. They're getting a little bit frustrated. This brings out Hangman Page. They call out Hangman, tell him, tell everybody that it's your fault. You decided to turn on your friends. This was your whole choice. No one made you do that. It wasn't Tully. It wasn't us. And that's basically it, because they sort of head off, right? I mean, there were dickhead moments in this. That's one thing I remember, them getting called dickheads and the bleeps coming. But there really wasn't a whole lot. It was kind of interesting because they said what they said. Hangman came out and they just left because he didn't have a whole lot to say. They were they were healing it up on Hangman, really trying to shit on him and make him the cause for the problem, which I thought was interesting, but he didn't retaliate. He wasn't mad. So to me, I just took that as like a bait and switch situation. They make us think that these guys are playing bad guys and they're against Hangman, and at the pay-per-view, it's all going to come full circle. But
I want to say I love this promo, but I just want to correct you real quick. They had a backstage segment with Tully, and Tully was hyping them up, and they were just cutting regular promo. And then Tony came out and interviewed Kenny.
Oh, okay.
And then FTR came out again.
Too much FTR.
They didn't come out again, but too much FTR. But anyways, just to that end, before anything, I wanted to say I love
you're
that
right.
promo.
The promo that they cut before was good. The following segment wasn't bad either, but it wasn't as good, I would say. Is that fair enough? Because you're talking about the promo they cut with Tully in the back. That was a really good promo, and I remember that. But then in terms of the conversation in the ring, the situation they had in the ring, it wasn't bad, but it just was like it was building to another moment. It was a filler moment, is what I like how I felt about it. We're building to the next moment. So the most impactful part of that was them dropping the titles in front of Hangman.
Mm-hmm. And then Kenny being gone from the ring.
I think that the in-ring segment didn't really sit with me too well.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed kind of random because we had Hangman kind of being friends with FTR, and then all of a sudden 1 week FTR comes out and is like, haha, stupid fuck, like, you're so dumb, like, how could you believe that we were friends with you? And it just seemed real sudden.
That's why to me it seems like it's a bait and switch situation. Like they're trying really hard to convince Kenny and the Bucks that they're not in it together. So that way at the pay-per-view, Hangman still has the time to turn on him. Meanwhile, Kenny can sort of see through this. That's why he wasn't in the ring with him. That's why he's sort of hesitant on what's going on here. And that adds that interesting next element to it, which, that's you kind of like it in a sense. Like instead of it Like, they just added another piece to the puzzle instead of just going into the show where we were, which is good.
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was engaging. It grabbed me. I thought, like, there's a lot of pieces at play here. Like, FTR is healing it up on Page. I don't know if they mean it. I don't know if they're in on something. I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know why they do this all of a sudden. Like you said last night when we were on Twitch, it could totally be a red herring. And I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. And I think this is interesting. I don't know what's going to happen at the tag match. You made me put a bet on it last night, but I don't even remember what I said, and I'm still not sure. The tag match is going to be crazy, and I'm really
You just
excited
said that
for it.
Hangman was going to turn, which was an easy out.
Yeah.
Because and that's like, who knows? That's the most exciting match on the pay-per-view, you have to agree. And because it's been built up so well for so long that I'm very excited for it. And again, this little element added more excitement because maybe they do go in the direction where we continue to not have Hangman turn. We've seen it happen enough times where I'm not convinced.
Sure.
They easily could have FTR just be the bad guys and beat down Hangman, and now Hangman's just some jaded dude trying to figure, like, he's all pissed off because he got left to hang out to dry by Kenny because Kenny thought he was going to be, like, there's so much they could do that still could be interesting, and them adding this promo from FTR, despite how sudden it was, helped, and that's what I liked.
Yeah. I remember what I said. Now I said I think Hangman's going to turn. I think it's going to be Hangman versus Kenny and FTR versus the Bucks. But with the Bucks being heel, it's kind of weird. I don't know. I could be totally wrong.
I hope we have more answers coming out of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, about a month ago we thought where this was going, and now we don't really know where this is going.
But that's great, and it's not in a bad way, and I don't even see a way where they could swerve me and it be bad. Because we've seen that enough in wrestling where you get swerved just for the sake of being swerved and it's really shitty. Well, there are obviously ways, like if Tully turns on the FTR to join Kenny and Hangman or something stupid like that. But there's so many different directions they can go that will be good that I have a lot of faith in how this is going. I just hope, like I said, we get more answers coming out of the pay-per-view than we have before. Because sometimes we come out of a pay-per-view still like, what the fuck is going on? I wouldn't mind that, but I would like more closure on this problem. It's been going on for a long time. So, and it
has long-term booking, but I feel like it's coming to a head.
I hope so. Some other somewhat long-term booking. They continued the Jericho and Orange Cassidy feud with an interview. Alex Marvez interviewing Jericho. He asked what we can expect from Mimosa Mayhem. Jericho says, when's the last time he experienced something for the first time? Because at All Out, the fans will experience Mimosa Mayhem for the first time. He says that it'll prove who's the better man. Jericho made Cassidy into the better man. He's made him a main event star, and that's why he needs to put a bullet in his head. And then he says that he's going to win on Saturday, and Joey Janela's a sacrifice. This is apparently what made AJ speculate that Janela was going to pick up a victory
because
here.
Orange is going to be out there, and he's like, he absolutely mentioned Joey Janela, so I was like, maybe Orange is going to screw over Chris Jericho, and okay, I'm stupid, okay? What do you want from me? I just had hope that my boy would win.
That's fair. I didn't have any hope, but I wanted to see a good match, and instead we got neither of those things. Jericho defeats Janela in 3.5 minutes. It's pretty much an absolute domination of Janela. I think he did get a little bit of offense in, so it wasn't a total squash, but it damn near was. Janela ends up split open. He gets beaten diving off the rope. He does like a springboard into a Judas effect, right? No, a springboard into a code breaker.
Codebreaker.
Didn't even get beat by the Judas effect, which just shows how little they think of Janela. He gets blood. Janela doesn't even get saved by his own tag team partner. Instead, Orange Cassidy ends up getting involved eventually. Like, they beat the shit out of Janela. Orange Cassidy gets involved. Orange Cassidy starts getting beat up. And then Sonny Kiss makes the run in to save Orange Cassidy. Not even his own partner. And Sonny Kiss retweeted that. I tweeted out a gif of that. And Sonny Kiss was like, yep, fuck Janela, I guess. Like, I just thought that part was funny, too.
I don't know, man. I don't know why
Joey.
Sonny Kiss was not out there to begin with, but anyways, this was weird. It wasn't weird. It was fine for a squash. I mean, it sucks that it was Joey, but I guess if it had to be someone.
This segment didn't do anything for me, and it wouldn't have done anything for me unless AJ had the reaction that he did before the wrestling thought it was going to go. Because I distinctly remember laughing at him after this happened not only did Joey get beaten by a bigger star, which I expected to happen, he was totally geeked.
Mm-hmm.
He got beat down
Dominated.
and wasn't even saved by a peer. Not even his own tag partner.
Not his friend. Nobody.
Orange Cassidy getting involved was never to save Janela. It was just like something that happened after. It's so crazy. And again, I don't know what I expect for Janela. I'm obviously just a fan. AJ's a fan. There are definitely people who are not fans. But I love Janela. So it sucked to see him be literally just the jobber to the stars this week. But hopefully we can see him rebound in some way, shape, or form.
I don't know, man.
Hey, brother, he was 9-10 going into tonight. Or last night, I should say. Did it feel like it was?
It felt a lot more like his record ended up being. It felt a lot more like 9-11. 9/11. His whole career came crashing down.
Damn.
Well, it's deep, dude.
Morbid.
After that, Orange Cassidy ends up standing tall to close out the segment, by the way. He goes to Superman Punch. Jericho Hager pulls him out. Orange pulls out the bottle of bubbly, pours it with a thumbs down just to close out that segment. So, again, building up a match that I'm interested in. I'm interested in this Mimosa Mayhem match, especially because they have fans that will help it a lot. No fans would make this stupid, even stupider. But I'm excited for it. I want something stupid with my Saturday night this Saturday, so that's it, and I'm excited. We then get some highlights from Sammy G versus Matt Hardy.
Real quick.
Okay, go ahead. Shit on the Mimosa Mayhem match. I was trying to get past it.
I like the Mimosa Mayhem match. I know Phil doesn't. That's not what I was going to say. Coming up, you're going to read something that I wrote in the notes, and it's absolutely fucking nonsense. Go on.
Heard that. I've been set up. We get highlights from Sammy G versus Matt Hardy. Then we have a break where Matt Hardy and Sammy G have a cue card off, so they're doing the gimmick, Sammy's little gimmick, going back and forth between each other. So that
was fun.
I imagine that the next thing I'm gonna have trouble reading is this battle royale, this clusterfuck situation. That if you watch Dynamite, you know what we're talking about. If you didn't, you don't. They essentially set up the Dynamite. What's the battle royale? The Casino Battle Royale.
Casino Battle Royale.
And brought everyone out to wrestle for like 10 minutes to beat the crap out of each other. And next thing you know, went to commercial break, come back, they're still beating the crap out of each other. And Jim Ross is like, we should get this settled or something. I was really expecting someone to come out, something really crazy to happen. Never happened. No. I don't really understand if that's the point. Like, we were supposed to want it tonight, and then we'll get it at the pay-per-view, so it'll mean a little bit more. But what this was an absolute clusterfuck. And I tweeted it out. I said, they killed Joey Janela and then paid homage to him by having a clusterfuck 5 minutes later. So
I don't know if it was a joke. I'm sure it was, but it popped me when Big Joseph said...
Big Joseph.
He said who won the Battle Royal after that segment had ended.
It was basically the Battle Royal. Like, there's no way around it, except we just didn't see the finish.
No, that's true.
So it was such a weird, crazy segment that we always have these brawls, and I can actually feel like we haven't had one like this in a while. It was something that was real prominent early on in AEW. They've gotten away from it. It was very prominent last night that this is what that was. But
one thing is Santana and Ortiz and the Best Friends were out there fighting, so I guess we can expect those guys to be in the Battle Royal, and maybe they'll continue their feud somehow that way.
Yeah, I expect it.
Expect none of them to win either.
Well, yeah. I don't expect anyone who was brawling to win. It's always a surprise entrant who ends up winning. So they managed to cut away from this by saying, all right, we're going to play a video package, and they played a Dark Order promo package. Brody says that they created this monster, and yeah, we get a package where Dustin says in the package that what they did was unforgivable, and we get a replay of last week's brawl. This was a fine little package, but it was strange coming off of the situation before it that it probably made it better, honestly, because it was such a clusterfuck beforehand that I was just glad to see something else.
Yeah, no, for sure. Anything would have been better than coming back to commercial and still seeing that clusterfuck going on.
And no one come out and destroy everyone. Like, I don't...
No one.
That's where Brock was supposed to arrive, guys.
My God.
That was it, dude. I was waiting.
I would have popped.
I was waiting for the
Yeah.
AEW Brock theme song, the Unheard. After this, we get Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb. So we did get a debut after this.
Can I go back to the Dark Order segment real quick?
Sure.
I think the reason this fell flat so badly is because you had Brody Lee looking as cool as he has ever looked on AEW television, and then you keep him off TV for 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
Why do you have his underlings on the pay-per-view?
he's on
you
the
know they're
pay-per-view,
gonna lose.
isn't he?
No,
He's in the. It's him, Uno, Stu, and Colt.
Yeah.
I thought it was the little baby boys.
No.
Beaver Boys and
Nope.
Ken and
No, I feel like they
No.
did that match or a match similar to that within the last couple weeks, but no,
that might be when I'm getting confused.
so they are building, and I would have rather seen, and it's strange because Brody has shut down the open challenge, so I get why we haven't gotten an open challenge match, but that's why I would have rather seen the 8-man now and then Brody defend against any one of those guys on Team Cody at the pay-per-view. It just would have meant a little more to me, but I also understand not
I'd
doing
rather
that.
see him fight QT Marshall.
I would have rather seen him fight Zack Ryder, but who?
Okay, that's not what you
Well, the
said.
QT Marshall's promo on the road too wasn't bad. He did well for
It
himself.
wasn't.
bad at all. No,
So
that was the first time I've actually thought that he was like a legitimate wrestler. You know, he felt like kind of just a guy.
and
Guy-
Totally
honestly,
agree
they
with
should
you.
have played bits of that in this promo.
They did.
Oh, did they? Okay, good.
Yeah, I just didn't write it down. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're good. I'm glad that they did because it was a good promo and he did a good job sort of solidifying himself as not such a joke character in that group. And I could take him more seriously going forward. If he happens to be the guy who gets a pin on someone in that match, and granted, I don't think Team Cody should win at all, but if he happens to get the pin on like Colt, I would be okay with that. I would like to see a little build for him now because they've made me care about him. Do more. Otherwise, it's gonna
Yeah, why
otherwise you
not?
kind of wasted my time. But
But overall, I want the Dark Order to win. Still.
oh yeah. After this, we get something that wasn't much of a waste of time. I thought it was pretty fun. Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb. We got the debut of Thunder
Yeah.
Rosa finally on AEW TV. We finally got an AEW women's match that wasn't just 3 minutes. It was actually 10 minutes. It was really fun. Thunder Rosa obviously picking up the victory, but Serena Deeb did good for herself. They talked about her during that press conference that we talked about at the beginning of the show, just sort of making it seem like she'll probably be signed up by AEW because they need more women wrestlers who can wrestle well. So this was good, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Serena Deeb looked great. Thunder Rosa looked great. It was a good long match. I hear Kira was so excited she passed out. And it was a fantastic match. I think they're definitely going to sign Serena Deeb. If they don't, they're idiots.
In Kira's defense, it's not like she knows who Thunder Rosa is or Serena Deeb. So in her defense, and you would obviously go into this match with the expectation that it is going to be like 2 to 3 minutes, not 9 minutes long, like they have been. So it seems like something that would probably be okay to miss, or okay, I'll catch it tomorrow. But then you find out it's 10 minutes long, and you can't just watch it in a quick 2-minute break. So
Yeah, of
so
course. I'm
no.
just-
I want to shoot Kira some bail so she knows that we're joking if she happens to listen back. But yeah, the match itself was good. It was fun. And a good introduction to Thunder Rosa. I really want to see Thunder Rosa against Hikaru at the pay-per-view now. I mainly because I've been a fan of Thunder Rosa just because of social media for a while now. And so to see her on our product and with the best women's champion or the best women's wrestler we have available, this was a good signing. It's not Tessa, but it's a good signing. And who knows, maybe Tessa's the big surprise. You guys get mad at me
I
and
love that.
my CM Punk-esque references of people they could bring in. Tessa's up there too in terms of people that, who knows, doubtful she could come in, but that's probably one of the
thing
bigger
with
surprises.
Tessa is like she's so good, and NXT has like the best women's roster in the world right now. So why would you bother going to AEW where it's so slim?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. There's not really much more around that. That would be something exciting that they could definitely utilize. The only way I see it happening though is because her dad works there. So if they could,
I thought it was an interesting move to have her wrestle for so long with somebody that was
An
completely
unknown.
unestablished, Serena Deeb. it was an interesting choice to have her feel like the next big contender and then have her wrestle a 10-minute match in a spot where we all felt like it was going to be a squash match.
I can understand that process, but I also understand them wanting her to just have a good match. Like, rather than showcase that she's a dominant competitor, showcase that she can have a good match, because that's what people should be more excited for. Her and Hikaru to really tear it up, probably have like a 15, 20-minute banger of a women's match that will be exciting, and we'll have fans for it. That's exciting too. So I'm quite excited for that match, honestly.
And that is kind of the vibe I got from it when I saw that Serena Deeb was her opponent, because that's a name I recognize, and you get throw her against Red Velvet. Some other
if you don't remember Serena Deeb, she was bald-headed CM Punk girl.
Speaking of CM Punk. But that was a good match for her, and I do understand though what you're saying, Phil, that we should have made her seem more dominant or something, or maybe given her 2 matches. One match last week where she wins very quickly, and then another match here where she can showcase her skill set a little more. But
I get it too, but like I can't bitch about it, because like it's been a squash match every week. If anything they give me here, I'll be happy to take.
Yeah, that's true too. So I agree. From here, we get Moxley's in the back. He says, "We're here." And Saturday night, MJF gets a shot. Don't sweat the process. All those distractions, the campaign, it's all going to go away. And there's only one question. You ready to be killed or be killed? Everything MJF has done up until now has been the easy part. So basically, Mox just saying that it's a lot harder to be champion, and it's even harder to get the title off of this crazy-ass person to get that title. So a relatively good Mox promo. I don't know. I'm ready for a change. I'm ready for a change, so that way, like, maybe he doesn't have the grit to give that like maybe it's just so easy now that he's not pushing it to the next level, trying to be like grittier, because it's strange. I something about these promos just isn't delivering, you know. And it's not that they're bad. It's just not that they haven't been to that next level.
Maybe it's just the oversaturation of them. It feels, like I said a few weeks ago, it feels like when you put somebody on an EWR that you know is going to pop a good rating, so you want to throw them on the show. It's like every week it feels like we have the same Moxley promo that maybe could be better suited for someone else. Or maybe
not?
Even at the very least, he could be in another position than he is now as champion. He could be like the hungry contender, which it seems like he does a better job at.
Like, imagine this story the other way around, with MJF preventing Mox of ever getting a title shot, constantly screwing him over, just stuff like that, giving us a reason for Mox to even want to beat the shit out of him. Maybe that's the point we're getting to. We're building to that. But I don't know. And that's where, like, because I want to see Moxley lose the title and sort of just be out of the picture for a little bit. Maybe even give him a break from TV the way they're giving Cody a break, just to refresh the significance of him. But again, I understand though that we are almost in the minority at that point. He is like a Jericho in terms of being a huge important part of the show. So
he's a draw at the end of the day. Like, in the wrestling community, Jon Moxley is the biggest draw they have next to Jericho, and there's no arguing that. He was
but give those fans a reason to be mad now too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not actually angry, but I'm not in storyline. So I'm not mad about it either. I just we all know what Jon Moxley's capable of. It's just we haven't gotten it yet in AEW because he hasn't gotten that personal feud. So maybe this is it. And again, once we talk about the close of the show, we'll get to that. So after that segment, Tony's with Big Swole. Swole says that Britt Baker's been ducking her for the longest time. That changes because on the buy-in she'll have no place to hide. Tony then randomly gets a pizza delivered to him because apparently he orders pizza during his commentary duties. After this, Britt Baker attacks Big Swole from behind, smushes her face into the pizza, and applies the lockjaw. So I don't know if the cinematicness of this is they're going to be in a pizza store fighting over pizza.
They said they're going to be at her place of work, so it's going to be at the dentist office.
Why?
Tooth and nail match. That's why.
I remember tooth and nail match. That's all I remember from this.
It's still the toothless aggression match. But that's what Big Swole
said. Big Swole said if she's coming to her place of work, just you can't hide from her.
That
Are
is
you excited for this, Andrew? You look pretty excited.
that is
You're
all
getting-
so
Yeah.
ridiculously just crazy dumb to me. I don't know.
Yep.
I guess I really hope they destroy some dentist equipment because I imagine that shit ain't cheap, and I'd just love to see it get all messed up. We're probably gonna see her like to spray the water stuff in her face. This is gonna be honestly probably similar to like Stone Cold versus Booker T in the supermarket in terms of just like silly.
It will not be
comedic-
that good.
I hope. I hope. But yeah, it's this is interesting. I'm not a fan of this, but I will tune in and watch it, and maybe I'll eat my words for sure. But to get so much build, and now the end of the story is that it took Big Swole 6 months to figure out where Britt Baker works to go to her job to finally fight her. It's all so silly to me.
The pizza thing, man. It was a pizza shit. That's what it was.
Jesus,
I
AJ.
I don't care.
Continuing
Yeah, I
on.
didn't like
No,
the pizza
yeah.
thing either.
Did you love the pizza thing, Phil?
No, I kind
Pizzagate?
of was tuning out at this point of Dynamite. I looked up and I saw the pizza delivery. I couldn't tell who the pizza deliverer was. I thought maybe that had a part to play.
Wasn't it
in
Rebel
the
or
story.
no?
Yeah, it was Rebel.
I thought it was, but she didn't like join in on the attack, so I
that's
didn't
fair.
think anything of it. Like, who cares?
Kind of the whole
cares?
segment, really. And the storyline, really, and that's where it's again. I love that they kept Britt on TV and an important piece of what's going on, but they obviously assumed one that she was going to be able to wrestle a regular match, and two, like just doing this feud like this, dragging it out so long, it didn't work. You know, neither one of them are like superb talkers where there's a and the basis of the feud. There's what are they fighting over for 4
Nothing.
months? She almost hit her when she was standing on the by the guardrail. Isn't that what started all of this? When she was riding her little truck, she drove her on the guardrail, and it's so silly.
Yeah.
AJ, do you remember?
Nope.
So
I think what Andrew said is right. That's about it.
yeah, I liked again that Britt has been involved on TV, and it's been like Swole hasn't even been pushed well. She hasn't won a bunch of matches or anything throughout all this, so whatever. After that, they run down the card for All Out, which we will run down here in a minute. So let's just talk about the main event briefly. Jon Moxley beats Mark Sterling in about 5 minutes. The important part is post-match. Wardlow destroys Moxley. MJF comes down and beats down Mox even more. Makes him he busts him open. He leaves him laid out. He rubs his blood on his chest and holds the AEW title high above Moxley to close out the show. I thought that this was
Great.
actually the best segment they've done for this feud. It's just
Yeah.
unfortunate it took this long to build up any type of real dilemma between these two. Like, he really beat down Moxley, destroyed him, left him laying, and was standing with the title. Like, we haven't gotten anything to this point, so...
Now, you mentioned last night, is this the classic card of saying, well, he beat him down, so now he's going to get his revenge on All Out? And I said maybe it's a red herring, but I don't know. I want to know what Phil thinks.
I felt like this whole feud was something I thought in my mind would be really great, and in actuality, it's kind of like just okay. I feel something that's missing from this feud is, again, MJF hasn't really been on the dominant side of things in this feud so far. That's where the real money lies, I believe.
That's where the end segment was so
MJF
good. He
having-
dominated him. He destroyed him.
Yeah.
Yes, finally, after, a month, he's finally gotten the upper hand.
Yeah.
I feel like when you have a whole... But then again, it depends on who's going to win the feud. If you have MJF win after getting beaten down for so long, or vice versa, it definitely... I don't know who's going to win the actual match, but I thought the booking was weird. I feel like even whoever wins on the pay-per-view, it's not going to be over.
Yeah.
I feel like it might drag on a little bit.
And it might get
because-
better after that point. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say it won't, but I do agree that this probably isn't the
Because I
end
feel
unless
like-
they have something new planned to start up. You know what I mean?
Because
Yeah.
I feel like this feud didn't have any real heat until today. Or yesterday, I should
Maybe
say.
a week ago when MJF briefly mentioned Renee Young Moxley's wife. Like, and that's like cheap heat, very easy cheap heat. So this was the real beginning of them getting heat. And I think that if MJF wins in some heel dastardly type fashion, that's where you start building up that heat and then denying Moxley a chance at coming for him. Because I agree to an extent, like MJF maybe should have won more or looked more dominant going into this pay-per-view, but he has been dominant. He's like almost undefeated. Or maybe he is undefeated. And so why would he put anything on the line by competing before the pay-per-view? So I understand that in storyline, but I do agree he hasn't looked super duper strong until last night, and that's when I was glad about that. I was glad he finally looked strong at the very least.
I would argue per se here, because if I want to compare two storylines with each other, things that bring heat to the table, I feel like as much as I don't care about the storyline, Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy has real heat behind it because there was a real scenario that happened that brought.
So we just need MJF to smash a chair into Moxley's face, like shoot.
Not necessarily, but in a way, we all agreed that made us care more about the storyline. A storyline that, honestly, personally speaking, I don't really care about even now. But
well, yeah, if he could have gotten more personal, even saying something like, "How did you come?" and he kind of did, but he didn't push the envelope enough, I think, in saying that this was supposed to be a new company of new faces, and then we bring you in from over there, and you're pushed right to the top. I think that could have worked, but because MJF is supposed to be the heel, they couldn't go in that direction as much because it does position Moxley a little bit more like a heel. And I think that's kind of the only way you could have gotten real heat on it, though. You know what I mean? There's no reason.
Yeah, that's true.
Or if he just stole the title, I think he probably should have killed Moxley and had Wardlow take the title. Like him and Wardlow destroyed Moxley on some Dynamite, stole his championship, and that gives Moxley like the anger to want to get it back.
I think maybe one thing that holds me back from here too is because I know that MJF is kind of holding back a little bit. Like he's not going as hard as he usually does.
And I think that's why, like, we're talking about these John Moxley promos, like, wow, they're so average or they're fine. Because he doesn't have anything to play off of, really. Yep.
That's true. He's just kind of like talking like, I'm a badass, and I'm a badass, and I'm going to fight this person tonight, and they're going to realize I'm a badass.
Yeah, I agree. So there's not a whole lot of tension until this point, and I'm glad we finally, again, got this. But we'll have to see where it goes from here and sort of how it continues at the pay-per-view. Like, I really want to see Moxley pissed off when he comes out. Like, how did it not just sort of come out nonchalantly the same normal way? Like, if they want this to have made an impact, they have to continue it from the second we see Moxley throughout the show. But they did, at the very least, like, MJF did look strong. It's not like Wardlow did a whole lot of work in destroying Moxley for him. So it's good in that sense. So I'm definitely looking forward to the pay-per-view. It was a decent go-home show, but we're definitely probably all in agreement in saying last week's was better. But that's fine. It pushed 1 million people to tune in this week, and that's a great number going into a pay-per-view show. So
the exaggeration, it was like 935.
All right, close enough, dude. Close enough. Let's go ahead and talk about the pay-per-view briefly. We'll run through the card and just talk about our thoughts on it. We've talked about the buy-in show enough, or the match enough. We don't need to talk about a tooth and nail match anymore. But we have the Dark Order taking on the Natural Nightmares, Scorpio Sky, Matt Cardona. What are you guys' thoughts on that one? Just interesting 8-man, I guess.
Interesting, but I don't want to say I care that much. I really wish it was Brody defending the title. That's what I wish. And
so can we get, for confirmation's sake, who are the Dark Order members in this match? 100%.
Right, I'll look it up.
I'm
right
98% sure it's Brody, Colt, Stu, and Uno. So if Brody's not in it, I have no interest in it. But I'm 90% sure he's in it. The match itself, the only thing I do like about this is I like their style of utilizing 8-mans as just like the same way New Japan does, essentially, and it's good for Dynamite, and it's also good for pay-per-views. It's good. I really like it, and it probably should be the opener, like, or an early match on the card. And it's a decent little feud behind it. We've got a reasoning behind it. Cody's not even involved on this pay-per-view, so maybe that's a reason, Phil, you feel like this one's lacking a little bit. We're missing one of the stars.
Not a big
The
Cody.
lineup is indeed Brody Lee, Colt Cabana, Evil Uno, and Stu
I know,
Grayson.
man.
That's
I'm wrong
that's-
only like once a podcast, and I already did that. So
All right, I will admit that is the most. That is the best combo of the Dark Order that you could provide for me.
they're all
At any
strong. And like Colt was undefeated at one point. Brody's the champion now. The evil Uno and Dos. Those two have been maybe not undefeated, but they're probably like 10-1 at this point. So yeah, they're strong competitors up against the other side. Honestly, is the weak side. With it, Scorpio Sky, Matt Cardona, unproven in AEW. The Natural Nightmares do have quite a few victories. They're a ranked team, but still not someone we take too serious. So
No.
it should be interesting. I just wonder, my main thing is Cody going to return during this match, after this match? I would think so. But maybe not. So, yeah. We also have the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express announced. This one should be short, sweet, and to the point. But a good opportunity for maybe Jurassic Express to look decent. I don't think they're going to win it all, but they need to look strong.
Yeah, there's no chance they win, because if FTR does win the title, well, I mean, this is going to go on before that, obviously. But if FTR does walk away with the titles, then it's going to be Young Bucks and FTR next. And there's no realm of possibility that I can imagine Jurassic Express winning. It'll be a fun match. That's the positive note there. But other than that, I don't really care.
I thought the booking of this was a little disappointing because Jurassic Express has quietly built up a few wins. They have a respectable record. They're on the rankings. And they're immediately in their first showcase match going to get buried by the Young Bucks. At least that's what we all think.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems logical that that's what's going to happen. So a little disappointing that that's where this is going.
I do think...
Again, another scenario where they lose the high-profile match.
It does lead me to believe maybe that the Young Bucks will go that heel route that we've kind of discussed a little bit here, just because this is a perfect team to, or maybe not team, but if you could take out Luchasaurus and then destroy Jungle Boy after the match as two just douchebags, then it could be interesting, especially if maybe Jurassic Express picks up a surprise victory. Again, I'm not expecting a victory here for them, but that would be a big reason for the Young Bucks to then turn heel, destroy these two. So I think something interesting could happen here just because of the idea of this pairing. What I really don't want to see is like a 7 to 10 minute match between the Jurassic Express where they just get beat really quickly by the Young Bucks and look just shitty, because like the Jurassic Express is a team we've liked, Jungle Boy especially, and to get beaten then by the VPs, that'd be some Triple H shit right there, man. So I hope that's not what we get. I hope they really get showcased.
If you told me that Young Bucks are going to win this match, whatever, point blank, that's it. The only way I'd want to see that is if they at least, they don't even have to turn fully heel. They just have to
continue teasing it a little bit, yeah.
Yes, because if they just flat out beat them and they're like, oh, with the Young Bucks, we're going to fight FTR in the next pay-per-view, like,
I just wish I understood more why the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are mentally unstable. I understand why Hangman is unstable because he's an alcoholic. These guys don't have any vices, but they cannot control their composure whenever they're frustrated. Like, the Young Bucks have been doing heel shit. Kenny was doing it for a while there before, wanting to kill the Dark Order. So just confused where they're going with that whole dilemma there.
With Kenny, I wasn't that weird on it because Kenny's
now
always
that they're
been
all
like a crazy
doing
fucker.
It's annoying.
Yeah, now it's weird.
So, speaking of crazy fuckers, we have Matt Hardy taking on Sammy G in a Broken Rules match. Not totally sure what that is. Hoping it's going to be a cinematic style, Broken Universe type situation. That would be wonderful.
It's also, for Matt Hardy, a loser leaves town match.
Well, if they are at his house, he will already have left town.
Way out of this match that it's a leaves town match, of course.
It almost has to be cinematic for me to care. If it's just if Broken Rules just means hardcore match, where if Matt Hardy loses, he leaves, then yeah, I don't care at all, because that means Matt's going to win, which sucks after Sammy had such a decisive victory over Matt already in like 10 minutes on Dynamite. So I don't really have much faith in this one outside of me wanting something really special that could be fun. That I think Sammy would kill it in that Broken Rule in a broken environment. I think that's the way to go here. We've waited long enough. This pay-per-view is the smartest time to do it. If you didn't want to do it on Dynamite and want to make the broken universe just seem important and only do it on pay-per-views, this is Matt's first one. So
Can you guys,
I don't think they're doing it. I really wish they were, but I think it's just going to be in the ring. They're going to have tables, ladders, and chairs, and do spots, and it's going to be a hardcore match, and that's going to be the
all
end
right,
of it.
guys. Because based on this episode, I'm totally comfortable with you guys disagreeing with every point I make. AJ,
can you guys ever remember a time where a large pay-per-view with months and months of hype between two matches had cinematic matches and they were both really good?
WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Bray Wyatt and John Cena, and what was the other one?
Undertaker and AJ Styles.
That one was way better though, so I'm not gonna pretend like they were both really good. The John Cena one you either loved or hated, and I wasn't a big fan, but I do think that they did a good job with that. Here, I don't.
I just think it's weird. I think it's weird to have two cinematic matches for two feuds that have gone on for quite a bit of time.
It kind of is.
Without any real wrestling matches before them too. So yeah.
Yes, that's true. There's no real.
Well, no, I
precedent
guess
to-
Matt and Sammy fought, but
Yes, they fought, and I mean,
But-
it was short.
right, that was a.
for 5
Sammy,
minutes.
the main
yeah.
eventer, though, I love pointing that out. He main events a lot, so yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm more curious as to what it's going to be. The second it starts will determine how much I enjoy this. If they do the broken universe stuff, it could really help Sammy. Like I think that could be the type of shit to take him to the next level. It's those
Agreed.
when he got hit by the golf cart. It like that was a moment for him. I think he could have another moment or two like that in something like this. So.
I hope to God you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you for
No,
just the
it's
fuck
fun.
of it.
It's fun, but yeah, I hope I'm right too. But I agree with you that I could easily be wrong, and that I will watch the match still, but it will take me out of it a lot. Another match that we don't really know what to expect from it: Jericho versus Orange Cassidy in a Mimosa Mayhem match. We don't know. Phil, this is your specialty, right? Mimosa Mayhem.
Yeah, don't really have an opinion on this one. I feel like the
We
quality
need to make
of
a
the
drinking game
second-
for this match.
The quality of the second match really took it out of me for this and all the hype.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I feel like as two proud competitors, they know that the second match sucked, and they know they have to do better, so this one is going to be good, but the stipulation is kind of
Well, and
You
even
know,
is,
I don't-
and again, I don't. It's not like heavily, but is Orange Cassidy sort of losing that luster for you guys? Maybe
Yeah,
because of the
yeah,
lack
I
of
mean-
fans
A
or
little bit.
something.
What
But
is it gonna do? What's it gonna
It's
do
lack
for
of
you
fans.
guys? What's it gonna do for you guys if he throws Chris Jericho in the vat of mimosa and he's going, I can't believe I'm in the mimosa. Like, is that gonna do anything for you guys? You gonna care?
No.
I
mean,
what it
a
will
little
do
bit.
is solidify to
It'll
me
be
that
fun.
Jericho didn't want to put him over 100% in the ring. Like that's
That's
all it will really
Yeah.
solidify to me, and it kind of.
I'd like
For
to see
me,
it clean.
as an outsider looking in, it's like one of those situations where I'm like, I guess Jericho doesn't take him as seriously as we thought, and that's fine. Like, and
as he likes to
that's
say
deep.
that he
That's
does.
deep, smart thoughts. So it's not the consensus of regular people, but I do think he's losing a little luster. And again, it might just be the lack of fans, but I think him just being showcased every week. It was much better when he wasn't. But I still like him, and I don't want to act like he's awful. I just think that when it was less frequent, it didn't feel like we were running the well dry. Now I don't know what we're doing. So, and where they go after this too, who knows?
Yeah.
From here we could talk about the Casino Battle Royale. I just imagine Archer or Cage is going to win, but it could be someone else, I guess.
I hope it's Archer or Cage. And like you said, maybe it's a mystery person. Tony Khan saying there's going to be big surprises. I don't know.
Brock Lesnar.
Last time Brian Cage was a big surprise and got a shot. So who knows? But it would be kind of weird to go back to that well again. So I feel like it's going to be Archer
It
or
would be,
Cage.
but
like
it
you
wouldn't
said.
be bad to continue a precedence, I guess, that in casino type matches we will have a surprise debut, or it's kind of like the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? I don't need him. I don't need
Yeah.
the surprise to win, but I wouldn't mind seeing a new face in the company. I really don't know who that would be off the top of my head.
No idea.
I thought the Casino Battle Royal was going to be kind of like an annual thing, and I feel like we've had like 4 of them. since
No,
since AEW
it
begun.
would be annual because they did the last one at All Out last time, but they did the casino ladder match thing, and then they did a women's casino battle royale. So that's why it feels like we've done a fucking ton of them because we kind of have. Like they're at every pay-per-view.
It just feels like every battle royale.
And they're never good either. They're never like booked well.
Even the
or
casino
done
ladder
well or
match where it
shot
wasn't
well.
that good. So.
It's always weird.
And if, again, as we said during our talk about Dynamite, if the clusterfuck they did there is any tell of what we have to expect for this, then it's probably not going to be very good.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, who do you think is going to win, Phil?
So I'm hoping that it comes down to either Cage or Archer, just because I like those guys. I think the pairing between them fighting each other is pretty good.
Final two.
Unexpected, to say the least. As for the match itself, not really looking forward to it. I would bet you $25 that Billy Gunn is in the Final Four because it seems
he's
like
big.
he's in every single final.
Well, the final three is definitely going to be Eddie Kingston, Brian Cage, and Lance Archer, right?
I would love that.
There's nobody in AEW that infuriates me more that I don't talk about on the podcast than Billy Gunn.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying you were mad that you didn't talk about Eddie Kingston enough, so I was quite confused when Billy Gunn was the word that came out of your mouth. But I get what you're saying.
I absolutely hate Billy Gunn. I hate his booking. I hate the fact that he's 6-0.
I'm about to get an ass man drop just for you every time we talk about Billy Gunn. I'm an ass man.
Fuck Billy Gunn. And I feel like the last Casino Battle Royal, he was randomly in there.
Well, at that time, they didn't have as many big dudes, so I think you could still be right.
That wasn't that long ago, man. I feel like the last Casino Battle Royal, he was there, and that might have been like 6 months ago.
I don't know, man. But I'm excited for that, and you mentioning just the idea of Cage and Archer being the final two. I mean, and I don't know if that's what you were saying, but that's what I would like to see. I would love to see them beat each other down, sort of just have like a 5-minute match, essentially trying to see who's going to win, or even do a three-way with Eddie Kingston involved in that too. I do think they will be the final three, or in some capacity the final four. So that is one I'm interested in. But again, we've been disappointed by so many of them. Who knows? What about the women's title match? We got Thunder Rosa versus Hikaru Shida. What are you guys thinking on that one?
Super excited for this because I know it's a long shot. I know it's probably not going to happen, but if Thunder Rosa won, I would freak the fuck out because that would be so goddamn cool just to see the NWA champion walk out with the AEW title. And you could do so much with that. It's not like NWA's doing anything. Fuck, put her in a program with Hikaru Shida. Like, let him go for a while. But I'm excited because I think it's gonna be a banger. I think they're gonna tear the house down. I think it's gonna, like you said earlier, it's gonna be like a 15-20 minute match where it's gonna go a while and it's gonna be good. So I'm really excited for this.
I 100% agree with you, AJ. I feel like if Shida wins, it's going to be a disappointment.
Wow, rude. I don't agree with that.
Next logical
No, I don't agree with that either.
Logical step for her. What's the next logical step?
Tessa Blanchard makes her incredible
Okay,
AEW debut, and that is.
That's why I said Brock Lesnar is going to show up. Who on the roster right now makes sense for Shida aside from Thunder Rosa? Exactly. Your silence is everything.
You didn't even. Well, after Big Swole beats Britt Baker down at her job.
Oh God!
Would you really like to see that?
No, but I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you who makes the most sense. It's going to be Big Swole or Britt Baker. If they don't have a Tessa Blanchard lined up and Thunder Rosa isn't signed up, then guess what? It's going to be one of those two.
What makes the most sense is that if we really have a partnership with NWA and we're going to make NWA stars look real important, and our women's division sucks, and we all know
That's
sucks.
the most important part.
Why not have an outsider like Thunder Rosa come in? She's an established name. She comes in, she makes waves. Oh, this girl isn't signed, but she's champion, and she's a double champion.
Oh, yeah.
It adds precedent to her character. Yeah. She becomes important.
There's a lot you could do with that. A lot of good stuff.
You build a star in like 1 or 2 matches. We all talk about no stars in the women's division. Boom. Simple. Do it in 2 matches.
Yep.
Agreed.
I agree with you, and I would like to see that, but we'll have to wait and see. If it depends
that's
on what
why I
kind of
say-
relationship they actually do have with NWA. If there's
Yeah.
a legitimate relationship, it makes no sense not to do this. If it is just a one-off deal, then obviously it makes sense for her to lose, and it's a solid victory for Hikaru, and really makes her reign kind of dominant. It adds to the fact that she would have beaten reasonable competitors, but you're right. Who's next after that? Nyla.
Nyla again. Yeah, no.
So-
Penelope
Yeah.
hasn't done anything. Kind of been
A geek. She was a geek. We talked about that last week. She was a geek.
Yeah.
So,
Geek.
another title match we have lined up: FTR versus Hangman and Kenny. We've talked about this one most of this show. So, just who do you guys think is gonna win if you had to pick a team? Really, FTR,
I
right?
think FTR.
Yeah.
Hope so. Hope it's FTR.
I honestly
wanna
still,
see,
I will
like,
always,
real-
and that's the funny part. Like on this podcast, we come on here and I'm like, man, I want them to split. I want them to split. But by the time we get to the matches, I'm always like, man, I hope they
Yeah.
stick together. I hope Kenny and Hangman
That is-
find a way to
you know-
win and stay buddies. Because I would not be
Yep.
mad still.
That is true, especially with the direction they went with the booking this week, to just totally make the FTR Hangman relationship seem like non-existent. I want to see Kenny and Hangman win, but I also don't think it's going to happen. And I kind of would prefer it to be that way, just because I want the new kind
I
of.
agree.
100%.
I agree with you. At the same time, though, like you said, I wouldn't be mad. I'm not gonna go on the podcast being like, "Oh man, I can't believe they lost." I'll be like, "Nah, man, Hangman and Kenny are great."
And well, the story that'll come out of it will be good too. Like, regardless of what happens, I anticipate an interesting story. But I wouldn't mind them, because I'm a fan, you know. So I want to see those two stick together and stick it out. So for a couple more months. But this is the time for it to happen. We've been saying it for months and months and months and months. If it was going to happen, it was going to be all out. I was constantly saying, how could they even push it that far? So how do you push it any farther than that? So I agree 100%.
And like what we've been saying with Sheeta, if not now, when?
Yeah.
100%.
And if not now,
Well, if not now, when for Mox versus MJF too? If you're not going to put the title on MJF, if you're not going to... Mox's reign has gotten significantly better. We've talked about it. It was a pretty lackluster reign initially, but things have gotten better for him. So who knows, you know?
We have two wrestlers who have never been pinned or submitted going to face each other. That's great booking right there in and of itself. But I have no idea because of that who's going to win. I'm just going to hope it's MJF, and I'm going to root for him.
see AJ, if you hyped up that on the show, the actual
I know,
show,
right?
it would have been great. All you have to say is that,
Right.
and it makes me interested in the match. The fact that they don't say it, the fact
Yeah,
that
that hasn't
MJF
really been
is
pushed at
going
all.
around with his walker and his little neck brace, I get it. I know why he's doing it, but I would just have liked more to the feud before it
Yep.
happened. Like, this is the money match. This is the main event of the pay-per-view, and this probably is why when I say, "Hey, are you guys excited about this?" My answer is kinda,
This is not a fight that pushes someone to buy the pay-per-view. This is not it,
Nope.
in my opinion.
Nope.
Granted, I would like to
Cap-
see a new champion and
Battle.
stuff. It's not the thing that pushes me to buy it. So,
Ooh.
No.
but it's still something I'm interested in. I do want to see a new champion, but I agree. Like, they didn't really push the idea that these are two undefeated stars, and I get it though, because that's a story you might want to tell with two better athletes a little bit who are gonna really have a 5-star match. I don't think you get that between MJF and Moxley. So you save that story for down the line, but there's no reason you couldn't do something similar and promote the fact more that these two are undefeated, that they have beaten everyone put in their path, in singles competition at least. So, yeah, but I'm rooting for MJF to become champion, get a change of pace here, get something different, or I'm not opposed to Mox retaining, but this feud has been so weird that if Mox retains, I would really like to see just something new. I don't want to see there's no way you continue this with him beating MJF, in my opinion. So
No.
that's where I think it's time to just pull the trigger, make MJF the guy, and make him the new, maybe most hated guy in like wrestling pop culture. You know what I mean? You
Absolutely,
have to,
he would
You
be.
have to do it, and it starts with him being champion and not letting anyone take it off him. So, but they would have.
He would absolutely be the most hated guy because, like you said earlier,
It'd
we're
be
the
all heel
minority.
champs,
We
though.
don't pop for Mox.
Oh.
but like most people love Moxley to death
Mhm.
and they freak out over him. So if MJF beat him, you're right, he would be the biggest heel in wrestling.
No doubt. But they would have all heel champs, so I wonder how that will work. Well, not Hikaru, but male champs, because Brody's champ, we assume FTR is going to win, and then MJF. It would be interesting to see. I'm not saying they won't do it, but all heel champions would be different for AEW, I think. Not to say it won't happen. But yeah, I think that we have a decent pay-per-view lined up for us, but the main event isn't the seller. It's the feud we've been kind of going crazy over for months. And it's interesting. Young Bucks feud isn't that important on this show. No Cody Rhodes, so he's not that important on this show. Kenny's important, but he's not the focal point of that feud. So it's interesting to see this type of pay-per-view once again. I really, really want to see a pay-per-view where it's like Kenny in his prime position. The show when we get Kenny versus Hangman, the Bucks versus FTR, like the prime guys in their prime spots doing what they're supposed to.
It seems like they're waiting for fans, and
they got some, but not enough.
I don't know if there's ever.
I think you're right. I think that's sort of the speculation within not just wrestling, but professional media in general, sports media. Like, when will you be able to have a bunch of fans at a concert, at a sporting event? AEW is kind of a guinea pig in that matter. So I'm glad we're getting something, but yeah, I could tell that they're sort of waiting for fans for that show, and just sort of naturally building the story to that big show. But I just, when you have such a great roster and we still haven't gotten that like WrestleMania-esque show, and not to like just the biggest guys against the biggest guys, we still haven't gotten it yet. And that's where it's like, man, I thought All Out was that. I thought All Out was the big one. And it's fair to say that it's not, but yeah, I'm still very excited for the show. There's not a match on this card that I am not somewhat interested in. That's the one thing I will say. All of it has me interested. I'm not gonna act like it's the best card ever, but I'm interested. So I get a Saturday off. That's what I kept saying to AJ either last week or yesterday. I'm so glad to have Saturday off, hang out, watch some wrestling. Like, that's gonna be fun. So I'm excited for it.
I am too. It's going to be a good show. I really think Tony Khan definitely put some hype into it by saying that it's going to be some of the best wrestling we've seen. So, like, if that's true and they're really going for that, they're really going for like work rate wrestling matches. Cool, I'm all for it, and I'm just down to watch it.
I think it could be.
It's probably.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's probably gonna be like he said, the best pay-per-view since COVID started. I think that is true because really, what else has there been?
Yeah.
WrestleMania.
Well, and I think that in a way too, it might be the first pay-per-view or AEW big event where we see some like shenanigans and a finish. You know, we haven't seen that yet. But if MJF were to beat Moxley, will there be interference? Just stuff like that. I wonder. Well, will Hangman turn on Kenny and cost him the titles without actually being beat? Just stuff like that. I think we might get the first taste of that in AEW too. But yeah, it is a decent show. I think we're all relatively excited for it. We'll be back on Saturday after the pay-per-view to talk about it. Hopefully we have a lot more excitement. It depends. Some pay-per-views we come in with a lot of excitement. Sometimes we don't. It all kind of depends on how things come together, but the way that Tony Khan has been hyping up the work rate, I'm ready to watch some really good matches and a good show. So I anticipate Saturday night show will be really fun, energized. We should have Kira back to talk about AEW, talk about the pay-per-view. That'll be fun. We'll have the whole gang together talking about the show. You know, iffy Phil says, but I'm sure we could get the gang back together talking about AEW. A little bit of Thunder Rosa versus Hikaru Shida is all it takes to get a good women's wrestling fan back on the pod. AJ, you want to go ahead and plug your social media?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at BigMatchAJ. You can follow me on Instagram at AJTheFitzy.
And Phil, where can they find you, brother?
Philip with 2 L's. DIMINNO. That's on Twitter. At before that.
There you go, dude. You can find me on Twitter at All Elite Andy. You can also find the podcast on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. We're on Facebook at Facebook.com/All Elite Pod. We're on Instagram at All Elite Everything. We are on YouTube at YouTube.com/All Elite Podcast. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, brother, if you're watching us there. And we will, like I said, we'll be back on Saturday to talk about the pay-per-view, and then you can catch us on Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we're going live after Dynamite, me and AJR, to play Fall Guys. That's the way we're doing things now. We're playing video games. Phil, we've actually talked about playing some Fortnite with you and Kira. We know how much you guys are big Fortnite fans. Just playing some games and talking about the show rather than having a lengthy show. As you saw with this episode, we're trying to just talk about the news, keep Dynamite a little bit shorter so we could talk about more on the show. But we will cover Dynamite every Wednesday after on Twitch, playing some games. So I figure that's a fun way to do it. You guys can catch us there on Wednesday. And if we're bored on Saturday morning, maybe we'll do something then too. But until then, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate all the support for the podcast, and
we'll see you next Wednesday night, everybody.